If you're not driven by the mission, but you're driven by the thing might not be enough to get you over and to do it again. But if you're driven by the mission, you'll say, okay, that was just the wrong stepping stone to the final goal. I'm gonna pivot to the left, to the right, or just gonna leap.
You're listening to the NEI Pioneer Podcast, where we showcase and share authentic stories of Northeast Indiana. In this episode of the podcast, we'll be interviewing NEI CEO Stéphane Frijia. This conversation really takes a peek behind the curtain of Stéphane's role at NEI, from how he got started in economic development to his journey to this region. We asked about his leadership styles and his influences, so if any of those topics pique your interest, you'll want to stick around for this conversation. So with that introduction, let's get started with the podcast.
Hello and welcome to the NEI Pioneer Podcast, where we share stories from our region, from the heart of our region of Northeast Indiana. I'm Jonathan Sackett. I am the head of MarCom here at NEI, and today I'm partnering with Ryan Twiss.
Ryan Twiss. I am the Vice President of Regional Initiatives here at NEI.
And this is a great situation where Ryan and I are teaming up to interview our boss, Stéphane Frijia, who is the President and CEO of NEI.
Hello.
Welcome. Stéphane, how long have you been here now at NEI, and where exactly did you come from? Can you talk a little bit about your role in Arizona?
Yeah, now it's been a little over 2 years. I arrived here October 6, 2021. So this is my third winter in in the Midwest. Coming from Phoenix, Arizona. I lived there for 18 years prior to coming here.
18 years, and you moved here with your family.
Correct.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. My wife and I have two kids, 5 and 10, which have been fun. They had a blast a couple of days after arriving here in early January of 22. They got their first snowstorm, and they never really experienced snow that way. So it was fun to get them adjusted to the winters and actually liking it.
They've never even seen snow before?
They've seen snow, but for them it was
fun?
It was fun.
Yeah, once you get here, you have less fun with the snow. Can we talk a little bit about, so you said you didn't get your start in economic development, and now you're the president and CEO of a fairly sizable economic development, company. So how did you get your start? How did you pivot? How did you get into economic development overall?
Well, actually, we joke enough about this topic because most economic developers don't start in economic development. Really? They life pulls you in, the opportunity comes along. No one gets up, graduating from high school and it's like, I'm going to go to college to become an economic developer, or even finish college and so this is going to do. There's a series of events that happens in life that kind of pulls you in, an opportunity or a calling. Some people have a natural calling about want to be part of the community and they volunteer different places, and then one thing leads to another. All of a sudden now you find yourself in an organization that either the local level, at the city level, regional, sometimes at the state, deals with economic development. So people kind of follow their passions and ultimately could lead you there to economic development. So think almost like a destination, that's, you'll know when you get there that you find fulfillment. For me personally, I thought my career was going to be in the built environment, designing infrastructure. That's what I went to school for. I thought I was going to work for, a consulting firm, designing new cities, urban environment, planning the freeway, Airports was actually my first career choice right out of school. But then again, things happen. You get a random call from a professor that I was working with, during my graduate work, and tells me, "So, are you still in town? What are you doing? Please talk to my wife." And because she was in economic development, Kathleen Lee, and we're looking for someone that basically had my skill set, and my interests, and we thought it was a fit, and typically that's how I got into it. I don't say as a dare, but it was just like, well, an opportunity came to me as
I've never heard this of you.
it was just like, as a curiosity. It's like, well, what can go wrong? And it's a conversation from an individual which I trusted. I knew him as a professor, so we had a rapport. So because of that relationship, and econ development is all about relationships.
Yeah.
So the relationships led me to a conversation on the spot, and then typically as econ development, you pivot. That's probably one of the key traits in development, that you gotta be comfortable with, thinking on your feet. You gotta have a vision of what the mission needs to be about, and not be afraid of the conversation, the risk, and actually pursue that. That will get you in trouble sometimes. That's okay.
You're used to it by now.
Yes.
It's always good when the CEO tells guys like us that it'll be okay if we get in trouble.
Yeah.
That's called positive reinforcement at its best. So can we talk about your education a little bit? Because you're saying that most people don't come up through a certain route. My inclination was that if you were going to get into economic development, you would have some sort of a finance degree. That's what I thought prior to coming here.
Very rare, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I would say the most people that I've saw through my career, a few will come out of a tax policy kind of background. Some from pure policy, they'll enter into that conversation. Some people are, storytellers, so naturally getting out from a marketing angle, and all of a sudden now, then they get more technical about the product and the community they're selling. So because of that, they're good communicators. A few of them come in because they're data wonks, so they get, and that's probably where my path, I was very good with the, data, the numbers, the business models. And then from there, we kind of develop a little bit of a specialty around that. And then the other venue is sales. Because ultimately we are in the business of selling, right? Of communications. A good communicators oftentimes will find themselves in a business development or sales role. Comes in, learns the ropes on how you talk about a community, the assets, and from there, people that have a natural community calling, they stay. There's a lot of people that in sales, they'll come, spend 2 years, and then bounce out. Because at the end of the day, if you're not motivated by the outlook, of what 10 years on the road that conversation may lead, the ups and downs, they're different. The economics of what we do is different than if I'm selling widgets.
It's interesting because obviously you've got an accent, so you're not from
You
here.
noticed?
Yeah, I noticed. I just picked up on that today. I hope this doesn't go in my review. But what I'm wondering is, so you were born outside of Boston,
Correct.
and then
Springfield.
and at what age did you move to Italy?
I was less than 2 years old.
Okay, and how long were you there before you came back?
I was 18 when I came back.
Okay. Do you think, I know that we just did that interview with Fort Wayne Magazine about, coming in here from another country, blah, blah, blah. I'm just wondering do you think that helped or hurt you in your career path being from another country, basically? Do you think that gave you a different perspective, a different view?
Absolutely. I think it did provide me with a different lens, because as coming in, everything is new. So how do you impact a new region? How you impact a country? How do you navigate, the biases that people have? How you communicate, what people mean, body language, all that comes into play. And being quote unquote a foreigner, now you gotta learn everything as an adult and try to understand the jokes. So I think that probably sharpened certain aspect of my personalities or how I read the room or interpret, visuals and other cues. So definitely that was possibly kind of a strength. But because of my education, I would say kind of primary, high school was also in a different framework, taught me to actually look at the global picture. taught me to just not look what happens within the jurisdiction of my own town, but think nations, right? So I came from Italy, so I got my region, one region out of 21 regions within the European Union, within a global economy. And in Europe, I would say probably more than the US. People speak multiple language. There is a lot more fluidity. So I think but with tremendous differences. The yes, we have the EU, right? But even at the regional level, the rivalries between the small village is just like the soccer rivalries. They're epic. So imagine growing up in an environment where there's so much interregional competition, tremendous history behind that. It goes down sometimes to millennia. And then you put into the context of the history of the region, of the state, of the country, the wars that have been fought. There is so much input that as a young adult, you basically are taught, explore, encouraged to learn. And that kind of creates a different mindset on how you look at the world. So coming back to the U.S., obviously it's different, very different. But it created a different framework for me to then work with my coworkers to explore issue a different way. And also realize that often in time we are victim of our own thinking, and if we start a conversation worrying about what can go wrong and all what the walls are, the boxes, guess what? You're never going to move out of that corner.
Yeah.
So I think all those experiences have helped me just be who I am. And I'm not sure if they can say because of that I'm in this role, but definitely because of those experiences, I am who I am.
I find that really fascinating because we talk a lot here in Northeast Indiana and joke about community rivalries rooted in 1950s high school basketball rivalries. It's a whole different level when you're talking about medieval nation-state rivalries, going back to actually warring factions and things like that. That's a whole different level of community rivalry than we're used to here.
Well, see, and I learned that when I first moved here, and people were asking me what high school I went to, like Sussex Hamilton in Wisconsin. But that's interesting because you coming here, first and foremost out of Arizona, but out of Italy. It's interesting because you would think that economic development would have to be people from a region that know the region like the back of their hand. So how did you, and this isn't a trick question, but how did you build this team around you, knowing that I'm not from here? Ryan has been here. How long have you been with the organization?
13 years.
13 years. And, you've been here over 2 years, going on 3. And in 2 of those years, we've set records for number of projects issued, number of outreaches we've had. I mean, it just seems like if you don't know the region like the back of your hand, that would make the job that much tougher. You're coming into this, you don't know the 11 counties that we service right away. You've got existing team members, and then you have to build out this communications that, hey, Northeast Indiana is here, here's our brand, here's who we are, here's what the 11 regions represent. How tough do you think it was not being from here to still get a team and get that gathered around you, being somebody from a foreign country predominantly?
Building a team, no matter what industry and organization, is the most critical aspect of the job, especially in leadership. I think coming here, I was fortunate that there were people like Ryan and many other people in the team that had already a kind of deep knowledge and networks, within the region that made the job, easier in some degrees. But I would say the reason why we were able to evolve the team over time, and kind of build certain practices from scratch, was that kind of I understood the mission and understood clearly what's our audience, the people that we're supposed to serve need, and that did not change. That does not change whether I do this job in Phoenix or I do it here. I could go back to Italy to do the same job, because at the end of the day, we're serving people. And people, no matter where you go, people are people. We joke around that topic a lot.
Yes.
The problems that people are trying to solve, no matter of the geography, it's still the same. People are trying to be productive. In capitalist societies, we're looking to make a profit. So there is fundamental business problem that are homogeneous. And they have a lot of commonalities. So what varies, is yes, the industry, have certain rules, regulations that vary, and how you do things, obviously will vary. The community aspect, what the community has to offer, varies. But if you can crystallize in your mind what your customer wants, needs, and what we're solving for, what's X, then the rest of the equation, there's a process on how you solve an equation. It could be a simple equation, it could be a quadratic expression. So you follow the process in mathematics and you solve for X and you move along. And then when you then don't know the answer because you have a process, well, if I know that Ryan knows the answer, I'll just go to Ryan. If Ryan doesn't know the answers, we have partners that are local that, most likely know someone that knows someone that knows someone that knows the answer. Okay. So my job is then to have a team that is not afraid to go and find the question and ask down the rabbit hole who has the right answer. So we become the concierge. We'll do the finding,
right?
And we'll deliver to you the answer. I don't need to know everything, but you're gonna need to trust us that I'll know how to find the answer for you quickly and faster than you can.
Well, okay. See, my background, which has been predominantly advertising and mostly agencies, and I think I've had to. I guess I'm wondering, coming from how much do you think in forming this team around you, how much of it came from mistakes you think were being made in Arizona versus, no, I'm trying to get this more to a dream team, right? Because there's an inherent difference. If you come in here, Arizona was, you guys, your numbers would have buried NEI, I'm sure, as far as,
they do.
Yeah. So you're coming in from a situation where it's probably more order taking and less selling than it is here. NEI, we have to really promote. People might not know where Indiana is. We're in the grain belt.
Yeah, more of a blank canvas than a Phoenix market,
right?
For sure.
It's funny you say that, but when I sat on in Arizona, we were having similar conversations. Well, people don't know Phoenix. We're a flower country.
Really?
If I go to London, what people know about Arizona? So
suburb of LA.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So, there's only very few locations across the country or even globally they can say, yeah.
New York,
Chicago,
right.
LA.
Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
And those are basically because they spent a long time building a brand. So they have, decades worth of brand validation and brand recognitions. Everybody else is still pretty much a non-territory because, again, we're dealing not with lasting brands, but with people. So it's about individual exposure to the brand, because you can have someone that never heard of Coca-Cola.
Yeah, that's true.
And so for them, Coca-Cola is like, what is this?
And you can't sell it by saying brown sugar water. It's got to be a brand.
Bingo.
So do you think, as you were going through this process and saying, okay, I'm going to move on. I've been here in Arizona for 15 years, and I'm going to go take this position in Northeast Indiana. How off were you in your predictions? So in other words, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do this, this, and this, and it's going to follow the plan and it's going to work. How much pivoting did you have to do? And that's not a trick question. I know that there's always going to be a boulder in front of you somewhere that you didn't see coming. It happens in advertising. It happens in marketing. It happens in life.
Be careful, though, because no one prefaces a straightforward question with, this isn't a trick question.
This is a trick question, Stéphane. No.
Yeah.
I am concerned. The concern is, as you're going through this, like how much Did you think this would be an easier job? Did you think this would be an easier gig? Or were you just so excited that you thought, no, I'm going to build the team that I wasn't able to build because it was already built when you were in Arizona?
I mean, it's a complicated question, a complicated answer. What I can say is that when actually during the interview process, I was asked to provide, a 30, 90-year plan. And kind of my key message is, at the end of the day, if we're trying to restructure an organizations and to kind of create the next evolution, the next version of organization, the first thing we got to do is go back to basics. Go back to basics and making sure that the foundations are solid, because we can't be talking about hanging windows, and curtains, if there are a foundation, no one went down and checked. So I knew coming here that was going to be the first task. Do a thorough inspections, open up the walls, and making sure that we had a strong foundation that we could build upon that. And when you open up, just if anyone the remodel of their house that someone else has built before them, and even if it was built to spec, unless you were overseeing your contractor step by step, you open up the wall again, you'll find things that you were done differently. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. And I expected coming in that the idea of I'm going to do this by this time frame and that by that date, it was just a guideline. I know those things that needs to happen. They might happen faster, they might take longer, but that's okay. But because I knew what had to be happening depending on what I could find when the moment that I opened up the walls and checked the foundations. There were many different things, many strengths that were pretty solid within the organization, and they just had to be adjusted, reoriented, but not really changed for that much. For the business development team, for example, when I came in and said, hey guys, next year we're gonna double our numbers, and they roll their eyes like, okay, guy.
I remember.
But we, end up the year 49, and I did not really replace anyone on that team.
No,
it was the exact same team, was allowed to perform according to different set of expectations. Let loose a little bit, remove some of the brakes that were imposed on them, and then second, here's how you do it, and just don't be afraid, just go, and voila, things happen. So a lot of times, again, we're dealing with people, with all people, with individuals. We have to understand our strengths, our weaknesses, and once you understand what an individual is good at, focus on that, build those strengths. And then bring another team member to cover their back, when they might be a little bit weaker, or train them up, or give them support. And that's how you build a team that ultimately becomes a leadership team on their own right. They were already leaders, but they were now given the platform of the venue to shine to the best ability. And the job of coming in as an executive, as a leader, that's my job, is to make sure that my team is the best version of themselves they can be. And occasionally, people move on because other will snatch them up, and that's okay. We'll find the next individual and do the same thing.
It's almost a, I mean, we've dealt with that in all of my jobs. You succeed, you get pilfered. People come in and steal your people because you're succeeding. It's almost the downside of success that people don't want to talk about.
Hi, everyone. We want to take a quick moment to shout out our podcast sponsors. Now, first, you might be wondering who I am, so let me introduce myself. I am Hannah Hannigan, and normally I'm behind the camera as the videographer, but today I wanted to be in front of the camera to shout out the people who made this podcast possible. Barrett McNagny and Sweetwater Sound are the two sponsors of our podcast, and they're both located in Northeast Indiana. If you don't already know who they are, let me introduce them to you. We're going to start with Barrett McNagny. As Fort Wayne has grown, the Barrett Law Firm has grown with it. Founded in 1876, Barrett McNagny is one of the oldest law partnerships in Indiana, and it's among one of the largest just in Northeast Indiana. They have the breadth of experience across a wide range of practice areas to provide you trusted legal counsel where and when you need it. And Sweetwater is actually the one we were able to purchase most of our audio and video gear from to make this podcast. So if you like how this podcast sounds or how it looks, be sure to check them out. Sweetwater, the nation's largest, and I would also add friendliest destination for music gear, is also your one-stop shop for all things podcasting. From audio interfaces, recording software, mixers, microphones, cameras, and lighting, Sweetwater has everything to get your podcast up and running. Enjoy personalized gear advice from their dedicated team of sales engineers, as well as free technical support to get your podcast connected and up and running. Really, what's not to love about that? So whether you already have a following or you're still chasing the next big thing, Sweetwater is going to be the ones to help you create a podcast that everyone will be talking about. So if you're interested in either of these companies, be sure to check out the links in our description. Now, let's get back to the podcast.
Jonathan has pointed out, and I've been around, as you know, Stéphane, for a long time and kind of on and off since the beginning of the organization. The thing I've always kind of broken it up into 5-year periods. So the organization launched in 2006. That first 5 years was really about getting the region to stop fighting with itself. The next 5-year period was really about building around a common cause, getting everyone rowing in the same direction and moving that forward. And no coincidence that 2016 was when we received the first regional cities investment of $42 million from the state to invest in quality of place initiatives. Here we are now, we from that 2016 period to 2021 is that next 5-year period, and that's where you came in, kind of towards the end of that 5-year period. So we're really entering into, the way I look at it as I break that out, sort of our fourth 5-year period, kind of that, I don't want to call it the 5-year march, but as we look at that, I'm just wondering, when you came in during the tail end of that third 5-year period, we were lucky to get not lucky, but successful in getting a ready investment, but also during that same time, the numbers did double on our key metric, which is business attraction projects that we're working on behalf of Northeast Indiana. So what was it, the tweak that really made that difference to go from hitting, target or records of 24 projects issued to the next year, 49 against a goal of 40? What really made that change for us as an organization and from your perspective?
I think the biggest change is to, again, repositioning the team. At the time of committee, we had 2 individuals, 1.5 actually, dedicated to business development. So we allowed one to kind of focus on business development, kind of took some responsibility off of him so that he can be less tethered, and more able to perform as a sales guy. He had a long career in technical sales, so he knew how to communicate, how to talk to people. And then I had an individual that spent, during the months of COVID, while everybody was hunkered down, he was out there, hustling. So I knew right away that, there's very little to do from the individual rather than just put him into the right path, where to go, who you talk to, what to talk about, what to focus on, how to, extract information that you want out of an individual to identify if there's a project or not. So little tricks of the trade that you kind of pick up along the way in economic development in a sales organization. And again, coming here, I came from an organization that was hyper-focused on sales. Back in the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, GPAC, our annual metrics were about 300 projects per year, and our landing rate was about 20 to 24%, depending on the year. So we have very large. So I knew for a fact that there are plenty of opportunities in the U.S. market, international market for project. We're going through a tremendous cycle of growth, of reshoring, from abroad into the U.S. There's some macroeconomic trends going on, massive policy at the federal level for project and expansions, big focus on jobs. So I knew there was plenty of opportunities and projects, going around the country. Just looking at the conversation, because again, our target audience is the same, whether I'm in Arizona, in Texas, or Indiana. We're still chasing the type of individuals, same types of corporates. So the portfolio is out there. The question is, how you get the same companies to also pay attention to our region. Mm-hmm. So the demand side of the equation is there. All I have to do is tell the team, this is where you go to interact with the individuals, and when you meet them, here's what you talk about, and how you present yourself. There's two school of thoughts in economic development. It's an old school, here's my piece of land, and I can do X, Y, and Z in this land, then, come and see us. Versus I'm here to become your partner in your journey to help solve the problems that you're facing as a business leaders. Old school, new school. When you approach as a second one, I want to be your partners. You'll be surprised how many more people are saying, okay, well, it seems like you understand my problems. Let's talk about our business environment. And so what do you think you could do? How can you help us with that? So that, it puts us in a much higher burden on our side, because now we're quote unquote consultants and partners. We have to provide solutions. But because now you're willing to offer more than just like, here's a plot of land, now all of a sudden now you're become a value add partner in so many much more conversations and much bigger projects.
I want just dive a little bit deeper into that, but kind of a twist on a question Jonathan had asked earlier. As you come in from out of market to Northeast Indiana, Jonathan asked about does that put you at a disadvantage not having the deep, steeped in the history and understanding of the community? Is there, on the flip side of that, is there an advantage to coming in as someone who's not steeped in the community? Because ultimately, your customer base is employers that maybe have never heard of Northeast Indiana, or maybe have never heard of Phoenix.
Never heard of Stéphane Frijia.
Yeah, so
for sure.
So the customer base isn't the same. Is there an advantage there coming in from out of market? We've talked about that's not how we've done things. Can be a shield and a sword sometimes.
I mean, it's a pro and a con. I mean, the on the pro side is that I come in with an open mind about and structure new assets, new solutions that did not exist, no one thought of. So I have the freedom of not being on a predetermined box. And I think as you try to come in as a value add solution provider, you don't want to be in a box to begin with. So I think that will probably be on the plus side. On the negative side is that once you provide solutions, you got to build it. You got to deliver on those points. And one of my first meeting with that was a leadership group, the Mayor Commissioners Caucus in Northeast Indiana. My first speech to them, I made this. I could be a talking head. I could be, a strategist. I could do all the things for you. But at the end of the day, I kind of point to the crowd. You are my spine. You're the spine of the community. You're the spine of the organization. If you're strong and you support economic development, whatever we design collectively and decide, it can be accomplished because we have a strong spine that can bear the load and be that partners. If the spine is not there, but again, to be part of that spine, that's where, now on the flip side of that, this is still a market where it's still based on grassroots, on relationship. They go back to the high school, comments. So in that reality, to change hearts and minds, being able to have that local touch and history, and that spending your capital, that it's a lifetime worth of capital that people accumulate, they put on the line.
Yeah, exactly.
That really is tremendous value that I will never be able to, put to a table because I'm not from here. And so that's my limitation. And that's where, the importance of partnership, of structural, meaningful partnership. We're in together. I'll go there and hunt and gather, but at the end of the day, someone's going to sit down at that table and eat that meal,
right,
literally, and negotiate with the parties in good faith to make it happen, to be believing. That's the local people that, the true Hoosiers, right, by generations, people that, they're going to be here, and their families here, they're rooted there, they're committed for the long haul. We need those people too to be at the table, because they're going to own the community. I mean, they are the fabric of the community.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. It's just like in advertising. You always want, people aren't going to believe your advertisement per se, but they will believe their friend telling them it's a good product. So how do you ignite that within the region to get it more fluent, more talked about, more shared? I mean, I think we've done a good job with that collectively as a team. But I just have a couple more quick questions, and then we'll start to wind down. But you talk a little bit, or you notioned towards leadership. Do you have a philosophy for leadership? You're a CEO, you're successful. I've always looked at it like that it's the P's, the passion, patience, persistence, perseverance, but you have to have purpose. And that's the way I've always looked at things. I feel here at NEI, we've got a purpose. We've got marching orders and we've got a mission, and it's to grow awareness, grow the right awareness, get people to talk about us and the values that we have here and the value that we provide economically, socially, whatever. But it's kind of a two-part question. Do you think that was there somebody responsible for teaching you your philosophical leadership style? What is your leadership style? Where did that come from? Can you talk about that a little bit?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think my leadership style is still evolving. I would say that I always look at my team as extension of me, extension of who I am. So I spend a lot of time. I try to spend a lot of time as best as I can to help them grow. Because if they grow and they get me, and we are syncing up, just with a look, I think then we're humming and we can go faster. Economic development, my general philosophy is about speed, hard grinding, about moving fast.
I hadn't noticed.
But
Don't edit that out.
But at the end of the day, it's built on trust. Trust that we're gonna have each other's back. Things will go wrong, and they typically go wrong every day. Something's always gonna come up. You gotta be okay with that. So focusing on what you can control, and don't sweat the small stuff.
Was there anybody in your life that you thought that taught you that, or is it mostly by default that as you're going through the path?
Going through the path.
Yeah.
I mean, I had my moments where, ready to flip the proverbial table, and just because out of frustration. Because there's nothing that is more frustrating than to spend sometimes a year worth of your energy and time and life on a project, and then something minute comes along and it's all gone.
It trips you up.
The sinking feeling. So it takes a while to kind of build the stomach to kind of. It's like, okay, well, let's move on to the next one, and not dwell on that. So I think you kind of pick up, and build capacity just by going through life. That's why I kind of lean towards the fail fast, test the model, minimize the risk, think about the critical factors, build a team that can sustain the pace, that is mission driven. Because if they're not mission driven, when you take away a project goes away, will they sustain the model setback, the emotional setback that will trigger? If you're not driven by the mission, but driven by the thing might not be enough to get you over and to do it again. But if you're driven by the mission, then you'll say, okay, that was just the wrong stepping stone to the final goal. I'm gonna pivot to the left, pivot to the right, or just gonna leap. So that's really how maybe it's a coping mechanism that is turned into a leadership model in economic development. But again, even talking to other former colleagues and now they're also in a leadership position, and we try to talk to one another. It's really about that. You got to keep moving forward, and again, focus on what you can control. Be clear about the message. Don't lose sight of the mission, because the moment you lose sight of that North Star, you will get lost. And
it's hard to do. It is hard. We all get tripped up. We all have a challenge in front of us. We reinvented NEI. It was NEI RP. It was a regional partnership. And, just to come out with the brand and to come out with this philosophical movement and have it succeed is pretty miraculous, because you're changing the way you're talking about yourself as an entity, still trying to go to market and still trying to leverage the trajectory that we had before we changed everything. So, I mean, I believe me, I for one know how difficult it is. So, Stéphane, if you took on this challenge, you move across the country, you move your 2 kids and your wife, you're all here. We're succeeding. You've set record after record, year after year. We've changed the way we look. We've changed our tonality. We've got more resources, bigger teams, and frankly, it's working. But is there 1 or 2, or I don't care what the number is, but are there things that you're particularly proud of that you can look back right now and say, over the past couple of years, I'm most proud of these things? Is there anything that comes to mind with that?
I'm proud of what we built. And the platform, especially with the Pioneer Starts Here, probably the things that I'm most proud of, because this is something that has been in the back of my mind for a very long time. At the end of the day, I start talking about this is a people business, and the most powerful medium, to talk about anything is through storytelling.
Yeah.
So be able to have a platform that is designed on purpose to advance individual storytelling, and you layer that with corporate storytelling, and that is what I expect. Ultimately, my hope, that becomes the thing on how we evolve economic development to a place where storytelling is a collective effort, not just about an organization that is quote unquote paid to tell the story,
Right.
but it becomes organic, and that becomes the corpus of when you explore a new market, well, let's listen to the people. What people are saying about the region, about the state, about the Midwest. People are proud of what they are calling this home. They don't need to hear from me or from Ryan or from Brendan or for you. But where do they go to find those stories? So we are in a hyper-connected, environment. There's a lot of stories out there, some good stuff, a lot of junk. So that's going to be our technical challenge, to make sure that we don't get drawn out, but be able to actually have a strong foundation to start to build upon that, and for people to come in organically to tell their story that we can then help to be found, utilized, and advocated,
And shared.
See, I'm learning.
Look at FUAS. All right, we're going somewhere.
That's really what it's exciting, because again, it's I see this as part of the general arc of how you grow a community, how you do economic development, how you develop partnership, how you connections with about business. And again, if people don't know each other, it's never going to be a business.
Right. It's so funny because I think back to when we first started talking about the whole Pioneer thing and Pioneer Starts Here and such. And I know there was a lot of pushback because the team members that had been here for a long time before you and I were here, they felt like they had worked hard on building and establishing brands within the walls here. When we first discussed the Pioneer thing, Pioneer Starts Here, and how we have the rotator, it wins here, it shares here, it builds here, that rotator. Did you went with it right away? And I was pretty surprised because having worked with you enough now, you're very thoughtful. Not meaning a nice guy. I'm kidding. But you're very thoughtful. Like, you will really think things through and understand if this could go south. Is this the right thing to build upon or whatever? Did you have something? I know you must have had a different positioning in your head before I came to you with the Pioneer thing.
I wasn't thinking that way, but the concept, what you proposed, kind of pulled it all together. Things, individual aspects that I've been struggling to, organize, elegantly in a way that's been in my mind for a long time. So that's why when you kind of come in with an elegant solution, it's like, there he goes.
Okay.
Because I've been struggling to put that puzzle together, and I was just looking the wrong way, So I've been selling individual parts and trying to maybe build a too complex structure, but you came in with a simplified approach that made it more sense and made it more actionable. But those are things that I spent years and years and years, with our previous head of MarCom and peer organization, noodling about how we do this, and we had their starts and failures, But this has been, I would say a dream, but it's been a challenge that I've been looking to solve for quite some time, and now we have it. Now we have that platform.
Yeah, it's the rule of threes. NEI Pioneer starts here, and the three color. It was the rule of three all the way through. It just I really thought that we just had to simplify it and still make it make sense, that it wasn't too esoteric out there. Any company is its own worst client when it comes to that stuff. And making up your mind to say, okay, this is the way we're going without a pivot is almost impossible. You have to have that pivot in mind, begin with the end in mind, we always used to say. So basically what we would do at the end of each show is have a rapid fire. And I think you got to remember, we're talking to ourselves as an 11 county region, but we're also talking to the planet at large to say, hey, here's who we are and here's what we're made up of. So I do understand that a lot of people out there that'll watch this will never have heard of some of these things, but it's about the region itself, and we're hoping to arise some curiosity out of it. Rapid fire, Ryan.
Rapid fire. We're a great minor league sports town. Fort Wayne Comets hockey, Fort Wayne Tin Caps baseball.
Tin Caps.
Tin Caps. DeBrand's chocolate, Coney Island hot dogs.
I love chocolate. A sweet tooth, that's my vice.
Wrong.
Saw that coming.
Wrong. No. I'm
Yeah, wrong. Those are two wrong answers. I'm
Hot
sorry.
dog guy here.
You will have to leave
Three
the show
Rivers
now.
Festival, Johnny Appleseed Festival.
Ooh, Three Rivers.
Three Rivers. If someone is visiting you here in the county you live in, where would you take them out to eat?
That's a great question. Oyster Bar.
Oyster Bar. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Any fun facts about Northeast Indiana that you think most people don't know?
The Pistons were born here.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
Zollner Pistons.
Although right now, maybe we want them to not be here, but
Maybe we can make a play to bring them back here.
it'd probably be a good time.
Get a
Get them on
discount.
the cheap.
If you had to make a Northeast Indiana bucket list, what would you add to the list?
But there was a conversation maybe about a year and a half ago. It was just happening quietly in the business development kind of team. Activities that people do during the kind of the 4th of July kind of summer, and around the rivers and boating, all that stuff. People talked about it in a way that sounds super fun, but also maybe you don't want to be seen over there. So I'm not sure. It's like I'm kind of curious enough that I want to go and check it out. I don't know if I'll participate on it, but it's in the back of my mind. It's like, before I end this, I want to just walk away and see what those guys were talking about. What really is going on that on during those river boats.
Yeah, they had. Did you get down to the?
I didn't, and I haven't gone that far, But that's why I think it's a bucket list item. It's way in the back end of the bucket.
Well, I was down at the dragon boat races for that, and that was actually pretty entertaining. Have you been down there for that?
I participated in it a few years in a row.
Oh, you're kidding
Yeah,
me.
it is very hard.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The SDI team, they train all year.
Well, I drank beer and watched the race. That's what I did.
there
So
you go.
that was my workout. Well, I think that wraps it up. Unless there's any last parting words of wisdom you'd like to share about leadership or about your trajectory, anything.
Anything about how great Jonathan and I are?
You can certainly bring that up if you'd like.
Oh, you guys are amazing.
See, Ryan, this is what a lie sounds like.
Yeah, he might as well have said cut.
Got
Edit.
I'm excited about 2024. I mean, at the beginning of the year, we got some great stuff in that we let some great foundations in kind of last year. We're waiting some big news coming our way. I think we built a good team. We have a strong foundation. We got a lot of positive momentum and wins in our sales. It's not gonna be smooth sailing whatsoever. I already forecast that, but there is a lot of interesting stuff that will make the job, fun.
Well, Stéphane, listen, you're a great boss, you're a great friend, and congratulations on all the success. I mean, you got to feel pretty good about where this is going. So thank you so much for joining us on the NEI Pioneer Podcast. And to find us online, you can always go to pioneerstartshere.com or neindiana.com, and also our YouTube channel. So if you like and share, it goes a long way with us to get our word out there about Northeast Indiana. And Stéphane Frijia, our guest today, the CEO of NEI, congratulations on all your success, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.